Welcome to Malifaux University. September 2024 Errata Update. In response to feedback from players, observations of how models are used, and the discovery of innovative applications of the rules, Wyrd regularly updates the rules in a document called the Errata. While the name implies corrections to errors, it's better to think of it as balancing the scales. This video will explain simply how the September 2024 Errata changed the models, and for the most part will present them in the order they appeared in the Errata document. This will be neither a strategic analysis nor an opinion piece on the changes, and your personal insight and feedback is welcome in the comments. The Mimic and Elite keyword received a comprehensive overhaul in this Errata. Their changes were explained somewhat in depth in the September 4 Waldo's Weekly. A link to that page is in the notes below. I'll take a brief moment now to thank all those who were patrons at the time this video was made, especially Sergey, Keith, Alan, Jeremy, Mikolai, Tom, and Travis, and many more at the free student tier. Your support is essential to bringing these videos to life. There are two versions of the Witness keyword master Damian Ravencroft, and Aspirant is the only one to receive any changes in this Errata. His health bumped up from 11 to 12, and he completely lost the Memories of the Yellow Crypt ability, which incentivized adding stronger cards to the configuration. The last change was to the Knowledge is Power bonus action. Previously, this attack did up to 3 irreducible damage. Now, the Expose Flaws trigger is the action's effect, preventing the target from reducing damage through any means other than a Soul Stone until the end phase. The new trigger is Reposition, which just lets Damian move up to 3 inches. Since the stat now has a mask embedded in it, this trigger is guaranteed if Damian wants it. The Performer minion Showgirls received a front-to-back redesign in this Errata. On the front of the card, they lost the Manipulative ability and gained the new Backup Dancer ability, which protects the Showgirl and other nearby Performer models with the living characteristic. This will exclude the Coryphees, the Mannequins, and Dorian Crow, but covers pretty much the rest of the crew. Backup Dancer is an aura effect that reduces all damage suffered by 1. Since it's a 3-inch aura, it really is a circle 7 inches across, which is pretty cool. On the back of her card, the Showgirl no longer has a sharp hairpin, but has gained an unassuming demeanor. It does the same damage, though it is now resisted by willpower instead of defense, and treats all negative modifiers as positive modifiers, so it may be worthwhile to cheat your winning duel down, matching your opponent if possible. The attack lost the Unexpected Ferocity trigger, but still retains Beautiful Clothes to give the distracted condition. Lure was also replaced by Beckoning Call. Instead of moving its movement stat toward the Showgirl, the target now moves its movement stat toward a friendly model in its line of sight. Naturally, this is friendly to the Showgirl and gives the Showgirl more options regarding where the targeted model goes. This attack no longer has the Beautiful Clothes trigger, but gained Reposition, which lets the Showgirl move 3 inches after the targeted model is moved, and Starstruck, which kind of makes up for the lost Manipulative ability and puts a negative modifier on attacks from the target against this Showgirl. That may be a little tricky to remember if time passes between the activations of these two models, but that's Malifaux for you. The Showgirl also lost the Seduction attack and its triggers, but gained 2 bonus actions it did not previously have. Wow the Audience forces the target to discard a card. If it is also engaged by a friendly performer, the target gains Distracted +1. Since this is not a projectile attack, the Showgirl can use this even when she is engaged herself, and she doesn't have to worry about friendly fire when she uses it at range. Her other bonus action is Onward, which lets her take the walk action, which can play into the Mechanical Assistant ability on mannequins if you have any nearby, which lets them push towards the Showgirl. McTavish lost his Penetrating Stench, but gained 2 new abilities. Swamp Screen turns his crew's nearby scheme markers into concealing terrain, so that can be handy for Bayou Gators and others with the ambush action. The other is a demise ability called Camouflage. He can use it only once per turn, but if McTavish is killed, he can discard a card to go back to 4 health and drop a scheme marker. If he's killed again during the same turn, he'll be dead for good, but this could be a tricky way of adding a scheme marker toward the end of a turn if another member of his crew is near enough to kill him. On the back of his card, the stat for Savage Bite dropped from 6 to 5, and the attack lost the Execute trigger. On the flip side, his Long Carbine stat rose from 5 to 6 and gained the Armor Piercing trigger and I Can Dig It, which drops a friendly scheme marker into contact with McTavish. He also lost Toss in the Mud and Swamp Screen, which effectively removes Swamp Screen markers from the game altogether. Gator Snack turned into Gator Scramble, which can now target any marker in line of sight except a strategy marker, and no longer removes the targeted marker. The rest of the effects are no longer automatic based on the suit of the card, but are now actual triggers to be declared or not. Sudden Strike was dropped in favor of Quick Shot, allowing McTavish to take a shot with his Long Carbine. This is also on a mask now instead of a ram, and the other 3 triggers are all as before. Uncle Bogg has been simplified a little. On the front of his card, he lost 2 abilities, Inclement Weather and Uninvited Guest, which should make his activation overall a little smoother. On the back of his card, the Tear Apart stat lost the Embedded Ram, so he no longer automatically gets the Tear Off a Bite healing trigger. Off the Path lost the Deck Manipulating Gremlin Table Manners trigger, but gained Disturbing Sight and Sinkhole. Disturbing Sight gives Distracted to models near the target of the attack, but it does not say enemy models. Be careful who is around when you declare this one. Sinkhole drops a tide marker next to the target of the attack, and between these 2 new triggers, the effects of his lost abilities are essentially recovered. The last change was to Uncle Bogg's second bonus action. A Weary Road is now Choose a Path, and requires the player to flip or cheat in a 6 or better to make it work. It still moves a friendly model up to 3 inches, but now you have a choice of dropping a scheme marker after you move, or removing a marker the target is now touching. Since it still does not say other friendly model, you could totally use this on Uncle Bogg himself. The versatile Botanist minion received a couple of changes, most to the front of the card. First, both its cost and its health dropped by 1. Its movement, though, increased by 1. The Feed Me ability was split, and the Botanist now has Strong Roots. Previously, the Botanist could gain a Grow token and heal when a nearby terrain, scrap, or corpse marker was removed. Those Grow tokens could boost the Botanist stats by 2 if it had more than 1. Now, the Botanist can remove any nearby marker to gain a Grow token and heal. The Strong Roots ability says the Botanist gains a +1 boost to all its stats while it has any Grow tokens, so you no longer have to make the tough choice when it comes to spending those Grow tokens for Flesh-Eating Spores or the new Cuttings bonus action, which replaced Grim Feast. Now, if you discard 3 or more Grow tokens, you can summon another Botanist. This new Botanist has health equal to the number of Grow tokens you discarded, so pay attention to removing markers when the Botanist activates, and the Tasty Snack trigger on the Trapping Jaws attack to gain those tokens. You still cannot exceed the hiring limit of 3, but this can be a handy way of adding a Botanist to 2 that you hired, or of replacing a Botanist that was previously killed. The rest of the changes to Explorer Society models were to the models that come in the Explorer Society starter box. They were previously all versatile, and only the Enforcer Tannenbaum had a keyword. They now all have the Society keyword, and are, of course, still versatile. The Society Honors ability is now common among all Society keyword models, and lets them discard a card before a duel to gain a positive modifier. Mr. Ngaatoro is the henchman who leads the Society keyword models. Other than the Society keyword and Society Honors ability, his only change was to increase his health from 9 to 10. The two hopeful prospects received several changes in addition to the Society keyword. They are no longer insignificant, so they can be used to drop or remove scheme markers and score victory points. The Welcome to the Society ability, which replaced them with other keyword models, is now Society Honors, giving a positive modifier to a duel when they discard a card. They still have a broken down rifle, but the stat rose from 4 to 5. They no longer carry a knife with 0 engagement range, but learn to do a rifle slam with a 1-inch range. It still does the same damage. Their Safety Precautions bonus action is the same, and they picked up another bonus action, Creep Along, which pushes the hopeful prospect up to its movement stat towards another friendly model. Tannenbaum was redesigned pretty much from top to bottom since he divorced himself from Jed's Seeker keyword. He gained the Society keyword and the Society Honors ability, but since he's no longer a Seeker keyword model, he lost his Chronicle ability. The new Well-Provisioned ability is similar to abilities seen among Enforcers in the other starter boxes. If a friendly master or henchman is within 6 inches of Tannenbaum when he activates, he draws a card. If Mr. Ngaatoro is that henchman, Tannenbaum gets to also draw a weak card back from his discard pile. He kept Ink Fingers and Unimpeded, but lost both Chatty and Manipulative. To give him a little protection, he gained the Hard to Kill ability. Ancient Words is basically the same, but the stat bumped up from 5 to 6. The Surge trigger was replaced by the Field Kit trigger, so Tannenbaum can heal himself or another friendly model nearby. Comprehensive Notes is no longer a ranged bonus action, but is now a melee attack with a 1-inch range. It does up to 4 damage now, but doesn't remove cards any longer. Instead, you just get to look at the top card of the target's fate deck. Haphazard Topography and the Study bonus action are both the same, but Tannenbaum lost the powerful Rewrite the Story tactical action. He also gained the Onward bonus action, which lets him take the Walk action. He needs to flip or cheat in a 5 to make it happen, and since it's just a walk, he cannot escape engagement with this. Sonnia Criid received a head-to-toe rewrite with this errata. If you've been playing with her, you essentially have a new model now. She still costs 15, has 12 health, and size 2. Now let's talk changes. Her movement went up to 5, her willpower dropped to 5, and her defense is up to 6 and gained an embedded tome. She still has her Arcane Shield +2 and her Ignite Resistance trigger, which will benefit from that embedded tome. She now has Pyrotechnics, previously seen only on Wong the Enchanter, which gives her some leeway with where she places her blast markers. She also has Arcane Reservoir, which increases her maximum hand size by 1. Counterspell, Seeking Flames, and Smothering Flame are all gone. Runic Blade is now Witchbane with a 2-inch engagement range and a ram built into the stat instead of a tome. Instead of just doing damage to the target and healing Sonnia, Witchbane does damage, drops a blast marker on moderate or severe damage, and then heals any one friendly model within 4 inches of the target, which could still be Sonnia if you want. The Scorch the Soul action is now simplified and the trigger for the ram in the stat. It is no longer tied to the burning condition, but if you kill the target with the Witchbane action, you summon a Witchling Stalker into base contact. Flame Burst is now Sapping Flames, which is not a projectile attack, so she can still use this 12-inch ranged attack while engaged. It does only 1 or 3 points of damage, but can drop 2 blast markers at once, playing into the strength of her Pyrotechnics ability. This attack ignores the shielded condition and the incorporeal ability, and anyone damaged by Sapping Flames gains Burning +3. A Crow in the duel gives the Drain Magic trigger previously on Runic Blade, and a Tome gives Draw Out Secrets, which drops a Guild scheme marker next to the target of the attack. The Magical Inquisition tactical action has a 12-inch range and can be used only once per turn on an enemy model with the burning condition. You end the target's burning condition, and then make your duel flip. If successful, you summon a Witch Hunter keyword minion within 3 inches of Sonnia. The only tricky part is figuring the target number, which is 4 of tomes, plus the cost of whatever minion you're trying to summon. A 4 Soulstone sanctioned spellcaster would take just an 8 of tomes in your duel to summon, while a 7 Soulstone Witchling Handler or Spell Eater would take an 11 of tomes, and an 8 Soulstone Witchling Thrall would need a 12 of tomes. You have to name the minion before you make the flip, so you're not allowed to just make the flip and see what you get. That's not how target numbers work. Arcane Infusion is the next new tactical action, also with a 12-inch range, that must target a Witch Hunter keyword model, which may include Sonnia Criid herself. She just needs to flip or cheat in a 4 to get it, and it gives the target model the fast condition. Remember that fast cannot give a model more than 3 actions aside from the bonus action, so if you use it on a master model in a game of 50 soulstones or larger, the primary benefit will be to cancel out the slow condition. A tome in the duel gives the Visions in Flame trigger, which ends the target's burning condition, no matter how high it is, and lets Sonnia draw 2 cards. A ram gives Smoldering Soul, which puts a 1-inch aura on the target that enemy models treat as hazardous terrain until the end phase. Sonnia's only bonus action is now Advance Order. This is a 4-inch pulse, which also requires a 4 to reach its target number. This action pushes Sonnia and up to 2 other Witch Hunter models within the 4-inch range, up to 4 inches in any direction. Killjoy is the only non-mimic Neverborn model altered by this errata, and he got some significant changes. His defense went up from 4 to 5. He no longer has the Blood Price ability and does not use the ritual upgrades anymore. Those included the means to unbury Killjoy after using his Demise ability, but now he has a new Demise ability. Immortal Soil is now Unending Strife and can be used only once in the whole game. With no other costs to pay, when Killjoy is killed, he instead heals back up to 4 health and is placed into base contact with an enemy model within 6 inches who is not the crew leader. If this place is not an option because it was the enemy crew leader who killed him perhaps, or because no eligible model is within range, then Killjoy would just heal where he is without placing anywhere. After he is placed, through his Demise ability or some other game effect, Killjoy can use his Massive Cleaver melee attack once the place action is complete, thanks to his new Made to Kill ability. He also has Unimpeded, which will be handy when tiptoeing through underbrush markers. He still has Terrifying 11 and Eat Your Fill, but no longer has Hard to Wound or Barbed in Brambles. On the back of his card, everything changed to 1 degree or another. His Massive Cleaver now does either 3 or 6 points of damage, but if Killjoy is close to an underbrush marker, he gets a positive modifier to the duel, bringing in some of the advantages from the Barbed in Brambles ability he used to have. The Drink Blood trigger is the same, but Onslaught with a mask is now Knock Aside, pushing the targeted model 4 inches in any direction. His Hooked Chain projectile attack is now Rosewood Chains, which is just a ranged, non-melee attack, so he can use it while engaged. It does the same damage as before, but now ignores concealment and can push the target 3 inches towards Killjoy or an underbrush marker in line of sight of the target. The attack no longer has a built-in suit to guarantee a trigger, but now has 2 options. A Crow gives Daze, giving the target the stun condition and pushing it another 3 inches in any direction, similar to the previous Pull and Drag trigger. A Mask gives On Your Heels, but can be declared only when this attack is targeting an enemy model. This places Killjoy into base contact with the target, which can generate a free Massive Cleaver attack through the Made to Kill ability. Since that attack is generated by an ability and not directly by this trigger, this free attack could still declare triggers. Killjoy lost the Juggernaut bonus action, and instead has the new Bloody Gate, which requires a 6 to reach its target number. Simply enough, This places Killjoy in base contact with an underbrush marker within the action's 6-inch range. But keep in mind that the marker could be just barely inside that 6-inch range, and Killjoy could be placed on the far side of that marker, gaining about 8 inches of movement. Of course, if this puts him within an inch of another model, Made to Kill can give him a free melee attack. Bloody Gate has the Barbed and Brambles trigger from a ram, borrowing the name from the former ability. This new trigger puts a 1-inch aura of hazardous terrain around Killjoy. Since it doesn't specify any condition or other effect, this aura will do 1 damage to anyone it affects. Outcasts had no changes in this errata, and the Resurrectionists have changes to just 2 models. Asura Roten is the first, and her changes are significant. First, she now has the zombie keyword instead of relying on the necromantic font ability to loan her the keyword during hiring. Any game effects that refer to a zombie model now include her all the time. Taking these abilities' places are Grave Dynamo and Siphon Power. Grave Dynamo gives a positive modifier to the actions of friendly zombie keywords within 6 inches of Asura, but not to Asura herself since it says other friendly zombie models. If Asura is the crew leader, the hiring limit of mindless zombies rises from 5 to 10. Siphon Power lets Asura use nearby models kinda like a Soul Stone. After she declares an action, she or another member of her crew within 4 inches can take 1 point of damage to let her put 1 suit of her choice in the duel total. She does this after declaring the action, so you're not allowed to make a flip and then use Siphon Power once you see what suit you got. She kept Hard to Kill and the Final Veil, but Rottenburg Residence is now a trigger we'll see in a minute, and she got rid of Accomplice altogether. On the back of her card, Asura lost her Tear Apart melee attack, which means she has no engagement range whatsoever. Her Decay ranged attack is unchanged, but gained a Siphon Life trigger from a ram, which increases the damage by 1 to the target and heals Asura 1. Her zombie summoning mechanics got a workover. Zombie Apocalypse is now Return of the Dead and still has a 10 of Crows target number, so she needs at least a 4 to make it happen, though she can get the Crow now from her Siphon Power ability if necessary. When she summons a mindless zombie, she can put it up to 8 inches away, and there are no triggers like for Zombie Apocalypse, which let her put it on a table edge or take the action again. But this is just a tactical action, and not a bonus action, so she can declare it repeatedly during her activation if desired, as long as she doesn't have more than 10 mindless zombies on the table at one time when she's the crew leader. The Reanimate bonus action, which let a friendly zombie model take an action, is now Macabre Infusion, which is a 6-inch pulse. This one affects only mindless zombie models within range and lets them all move 3 inches and then take an action. The rules on simultaneous effects say to resolve everything on a model-to-model basis, so you'd move one mindless zombie, let it take an action, and then move the next mindless zombie, let it take its action, and so on. The Rottenburg Residence trigger on this action gives a buff to the affected mindless zombies. They ignore their insignificant ability, which means they all could take the interact action to drop or remove scheme markers, or engage or otherwise affect other models for schemes and strategies. They also get to use their pack mentality ability, which normally helps them only during their own activations. This adds 1 to their duel totals for each other mindless zombie within 3 inches. Kinda cool. Just in case there are no mindless zombies around, Asura has a second bonus action now called Study. She needs to flip or cheat in a 6 or better and targets a scrap or corpse marker within 6 inches. She gets to drop a scheme marker into contact with it and then remove the target, and the action has 2 triggers. A mask gives Reposition, which lets Asura move 3 inches, and a tome gives Ritual of Empowerment. This gives a positive modifier to friendly models when they make a non-projectile, non-melee action within 4 inches of this specific scheme marker. This could apply to non-projectile ranged attack actions or tactical actions, just not melee or projectile actions. The titled version of Reva Cortinas is the other Reser model to receive changes this time. Reva Cortinas, Luminary, saw her defense go up to 6 and her health climb to 12. Previously, she could kill a friendly model with Enkindle the Cult to avoid damage, which would then drop a pyre marker with Funeral Pyre, which would then push all models within 2 inches of that pyre marker thanks to Tear Back the Veil. That's a lot going on, often in the middle of an enemy model's activation. Those first 2 abilities are gone now. Guiding Light drops a pyre marker during every start phase and pushes nearby models up to 2 inches. The wording of Visions of Fire was simplified a bit, and now it only heals friendly models. Lastly, Reva gained the Fireproof ability, which reduces the damage she suffers from the burning condition by 1 to a minimum of 0. On the back of her card, Corrupting Flame works primarily the same. It gained a ram in the stat to guarantee the new Smolder trigger. The previous Pyre Bloom dropped a pyre marker, but Smolder does burning damage to the targeted model. The Immolate ranged attack is also the same, but the Unending Flame changed slightly. Previously, the health of the summoned Lampad model depended on the burning condition of the target. Now, it's just 4. The Fan the Flames tactical action didn't change, but the Lantern's Light bonus action did. The action itself is the same, but the Pyre Bloom trigger that used to be on Corrupting Flame is now here to drop a pyre marker. The Luminary's Chosen trigger changed more than a little. Previously, it put an aura on the targeted model, but now the aura is on Reva herself. Now, the attack actions of other Revenant keyword models within 4 inches of Reva do +1 damage if they are damaging attacks. If they just give a condition or push a model, they don't do 1 damage. Lastly, one 10 Thunders model was virtually reinvented in this errata. The Yasunori Versatile Enforcer saw its cost drop from 11 to 10, while its health increased from 9 to 10. Its defense stat also rose by 1 to 7, but its willpower dropped from 7 to 6. It lost all of its former abilities except for Flight, and gained Flow of Battle, which allows Yasunori to swap between one of 2 new Battle Plan upgrades. We'll get to those in a minute. Yasunori still has its Balanced Sword, but it no longer has the built-in positive modifier. Damage is the same, and it has triggers for every suit now. A ram gives Duality if it attacked an enemy model, and forces both players to either draw a card or discard a card. The mask still gives quick reflexes, and a crow now produces the Daze trigger, which gives Stunned and pushes the target up to 3 inches. A tome gives Thunderous Blow, forcing enemy models within 2 inches of Yasunori to pass a Movement 13 duel or gain the Slow condition. The Wind's Wrath bonus action is unchanged, and the Revel in Chaos bonus action is just gone. But let's look at the new upgrades. Flow of Battle attaches one of these at the start of Yasunori's activation, and they each bring different abilities and actions depending on whether Yasunori needs to focus on defense or offense. The Composure upgrade gives the Blade Wall ability, which reduces damage Yasunori suffers by 1 and can stack with other damage reducing game effects. The Isolating Wind bonus action puts a 4-inch aura around Yasunori that enemy models treat as concealing terrain, preventing their placement there. They can still walk or charge in, but cannot close that distance with anything that says place. The Vanish trigger from a mask places Yasunori anywhere within that 4 inches, moving the aura with him, of course. A ram gives Bolster Strength, which heals all friendly models within that 4 inches. The Carnage upgrade gives the A Worthy Foe ability, which adds +1 damage to Yasunori's Balanced Sword attack. The Blade Burst bonus action is basically a charge in that it's a movement that generates a melee attack, but with a place instead of a push. Since it's not a charge though, Yasunori could totally declare a charge action during the same activation, as long as he's not engaged. Those are the model and stat card changes from the September 2024 errata. Your feedback, opinions, and analysis are welcome in the comments. Pick up a printable set of all the markers and tokens you need to play Malifaux in the Wargames Vault. If you haven't already, join us on Patreon to receive early, ad-free access to all new content, and be sure to visit the Malifaux University gift shop for the latest in Malifaux-themed shirts, hoodies, drinkware, and more. Links are in the notes below. And remember, play friendly games, keep it simple, and have fun.